Hello, this is Vincent, and welcome to Dogma Discussions. This channel is to discuss all kinds of dogma, um, religious dogma or any dogma, and how it can be harmful. So, what I do is I share stories from my own experiences, and then please leave me a comment about it. Like the video, that helps me out with YouTube algorithms. Share it with other people you think may enjoy it or get some use out of it. I hope that they help because dogma can be very mentally taxing, and it can make one doubt yourself. It can make you think something is true that's not true, and it can change the course of your life in unpleasant ways. So, let's get moving. The story I want to share with you tonight is about orthodoxy versus orthopraxy. Alrighty, here we go. Orthodoxy versus orthopraxy. What's the difference? Orthodoxy involves belief in an accepted religious creed or doctrine. In Christianity, the book of Ephesians states that salvation is based on faith in the grace of God. Since faith is a conviction that one's belief is correct, we can safely say that Christianity is orthodoxic. Orthopraxy, on the other hand, is based on the correct practice of ritual. No belief is required. Aha, you say. What about the rituals in Christianity, like communion and baptism? Aren't those orthopraxic? The presence of these elements are ritualistic, but do not make the religion orthopraxic, because those practices are done as a result of the orthodoxy. Although they may look like two sides of the same coin, the difference is this. Religious orthodoxy requires not just a belief in divinity, but a doctrine that goes along with it. Whereas orthopraxy requires neither. A good example of orthopraxy was Roman religion. The original purpose of Roman rituals was to gain cooperation or favor from spirits which inhabited rocks and trees and streams, etc. This approach is known in Latin as the do ut des, meaning, I give in order that you give. This could also be translated as quid pro quo. I give you something and you give me what I want in return. For instance, in ancient Roman times, if a bridge was built, there was a ritual involved to appease the river god. The deity received some type of recognition, and in return, he didn't destroy the bridge. This type of approach is clearly seen in a Roman work on farming from 160 BC. In it, the writer, Cato, describes a ritual including the sacrifice of a pig for clearing a grove. The idea was to appease the tree spirits so that they wouldn't punish the farmer or his family for the action against nature. Over time, the religion developed major gods such as Venus, for whom you would offer gifts to improve your love life, and chthonic deities, those who live under the earth, for help in cursing someone. Since Roman religion began as an animistic folk religion, upon which the great gods were superimposed, it always carried with it this type of magical thinking, not faith or belief. And inherent in the use of magic is some form of reciprocal relationship. Thus, the person who participates in the practice is still free to think as he or she wishes, as long as the petitioner does the prescribed ritual in a specific manner. The focus is orthopraxic. One does not have to believe in the spirits or gods, and there is not a doctrine like the Bible. It merely requires the acknowledgement that some things are out of our control. Conversely, take the orthodoxic practice of communion. Since it's celebrated in remembrance of Christ, it might appear orthopraxic. Yet the faithful believe that Jesus is God and that he commands them to follow this practice. In addition, the Catholic faith teaches transubstantiation, meaning that the wine and cracker actually change into the body and blood of Christ when ingested. Definitely orthodoxic. The situation is similar in baptism. In Matthew, John baptizes people after they repent of their sins, the act symbolic of souls being washed clean. That could be called orthopraxic. Until Christ comes along, about whom, when baptized, God speaks from heaven, identifying Jesus as his Son. Why is this a watershed moment? From then on, baptism is an outward expression of belief that Jesus is the Son of God. That is doctrine. Again, the orthopraxic element is done because of the orthodoxy. But what about things like praying the rosary? Certainly appears orthopraxic, since chanting it seems similar to the use of Buddhist meditation beads, doesn't it? True, but unlike the beads, which help you delve deeper inside your mind, the rosary is based on the belief that God will help the soul of the dearly departed and those who pray. Oh, so its ritualistic practice appears to reflect the do ut des, but there's also a belief in divinity. So then it's orthodoxic? Yes. I gained insight about this very issue when my girlfriend's aunt died, and I attended her rosary, which was held nightly for days afterwards. A thin, elderly gentleman dressed in a suit stands in front by the coffin, leading the attendees in rhythmic prayers. I am not Catholic, so I don't pray, but am present for moral support. The commingling of the voices is mesmerizing, and I feel my consciousness drift as I listen. Yet, I also notice that each night many people don't pray the entire time, but drop in, pray at once, and then shuffle out into the foyer. So, one night, I decide to check it out. When I enter the hallway, there are small groups gathered around, talking and laughing. Some, mostly older women, huddle closely together, grasping arms and wiping tears. Yet others smile and touch in a way more akin to greeting than comforting. Curious, I walk around quietly and listen in. Carol, a tall, red-headed lawyer, brags about her children, how well they're doing in school, sports, etc. A group of young people in their 20s discuss movies and music. A cadre of middle-aged men brag about their accomplishments at work. And small children play happily, enough of a distance from the door to the chapel so as not to disturb the worshipers, but near enough to their parents to be watched. I imagine that these folks represent what Roman religion must have been like You do your duty, pray for the dead, putting in minimal effort, and then seek out social activity. Yet, can I honestly question their belief? No. Its core is still orthodoxic, even though some may treat it more like orthopraxy. Struggling to understand this, I seek out an old friend. I find his insight on spirituality interesting because he claims to be part of an orthopraxic religion. He is a pagan, goes by the craft name Hearn, and his group seeks to reconstruct the religion of the ancient Europeans. Orthopraxic, huh? Is there really such a religion? I wonder. To give me insight, I am his guest at a winter solstice ceremony and allowed to watch a well-orchestrated ritual. Different folks invoke various nature spirits, chant, sing, hug, and generally appear to have a good time, unlike my experience in Christian churches. After the service, I go with them to someone's home and share in wine and good food. To my surprise, no one tries to convert me. Similar to my experience in a hallway at the Rosary, the mood here is seemingly secular, meaning people don't sit around seriously discussing dogma, but rather talk about everyday things, interests, hobbies, and so on. After a while of walking around meeting people and having my fill of food, my friend and I sit outside and enjoy the freshness of the wintry night. To be fair, we are warmed internally from the mulled wine. Let me take you to that moment. Hearn, I have a question. He smiles. I figured that you would, Vincent. Shoot. Well, are pagans, do you actually believe this stuff? He laughs. Probably not in the way that the religion you were raised in does, Vincent. Right, that's what I mean. I broke free of that because they put shackles on people's minds. But you don't seem that way. Right, because for us, he responds, it's the ritual that's important, not belief. It's a way of connecting to nature. Sure, some may believe in literal gods, but we have atheists here too. Atheists? But how? Why? Hearn laughs. Well, they revere nature and want a community that feels the same. Whatever, Vincent. The point is that you don't have to believe to participate in our rituals. Just be respectful and you're good. Being raised evangelical, belief was required. So imagine my confusion regarding Hearn's comments. If, in the church of my birth, someone did not believe, they were going to hell, period. My own mother thought this about my father, because he wasn't as devout as she. To her, their marriage was like the devotion Olympics, in which they had to compete to prove who loved God more. It was the experience with the Rosary service that first showed me that many Christians were not as devout as my mother, nor even pretended to be. Could, as Hearn claimed, ritual be its own reward? And if so, is that a bad thing? If you're a dogmatic Christian, it is. Yet, it may be mentally healthier for people to be like Hearn's group, like my dad, People who value community and respect the religious practice, but don't necessarily believe. Is that possible? Wouldn't they have to believe in some divinity to participate in the rituals? According to Hearn, no. I have my doubts, but it does give me hope that there may be a place for people who want a religious community, but not a dogma. Okay, that's it for my story. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel. Also select the notification bell so that you can be notified when I put out new videos. It's usually every 2 weeks on a Sunday. Leave me a comment. Until next time, this is Vincent. Goodbye.